WL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care what you have to say. They don't read any of the comments. They talk down to us. They think we don't know what we're talking about. And I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing out there, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing out there, then please definitely let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. I honestly see this channel just as much mine as it is yours. And so I want to build something that we all really feel connected to, something that we're actually proud to be part of, something that is bigger than ourselves. And honestly, we're well on our way to doing it. So I would absolutely love to see you part of it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip with First Things First, talking about the Dolphins losing and dropping down to the 6th seed. I've had a lot of Dolphins hate as of late, probably because I've been talking about the Dolphins a lot as of late. But I'm on the record saying that I like the Dolphins. They have a lot of players that I like to root for. I like Tua and all that, but I've also said that they're not an elite team, and a lot of Dolphins fans got very angry at that. And what I keep saying is that the Dolphins have not beat any team worth beating. And that the only time that they did was against the Cowboys, and that was more about the Cowboys losing that game than the Dolphins winning. Not to mention, I don't even think the Cowboys are that good, but that's going to be in another follow-up video. And so that's why the Dolphins, they couldn't pull it off, right? That once they started playing like actually good teams, they didn't beat them, and they didn't win when they needed to, and they didn't take advantage. Like that last night's game was a winnable game against the Bills. All those interceptions and turnovers, and they still could not make it happen. They still could not get the win. And I know you're going to say, oh, well, they're banged up and this now, and there's injuries. Of course, the Bills also have injuries. I mean, all the teams have injuries at this point now. You have to find the way to win. That's not to say that those aren't excuses or those aren't reasons why you lost. A reason is real and an excuse is cheap. And so sometimes, not all injuries are created equally. And I always say, because there's other people that say, oh, you have to just overcome those injuries no matter what. And it's like, well, if that was the case, then you wouldn't need star players. You could just get anyone, it doesn't even matter. And that's obviously not the case. So I'm open to saying, what made, the Dolphins better or special was because of their complete team, but they're just not deep enough. So then when you do get an injury to Waddle and stuff like that, you just can't overcome it. But let's see what Nick Wright and Chris Broussard have to say.
Okay, this offense, which we were very scared of after they scored 70 points, in their last 5 games, they're just 2-3. They're down at 22 points. Passing yards are at 233. 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and Tua's passer rating down to 89. A lot of this, I think, is missing Jalen Waddle. But, Brew, do you have another theory? Are you surprised the Dolphins fell flat?
Okay. Surprise?
Here we go.
And here's where the variety portion of the show begins.
Were you here Friday?
I was here.
Were both of you guys here Friday? Because on Friday, we put this up. Sunday Night Fever, Dolphins pay for bringing dancing shoes to a bar brawl.
Because you said break dancers, but that's like a
disco break dance. Yeah. It's all the same era. The 70s is when the break dancing started. Break dancing started in the 70s. All right. So look, the Bills guys, for all their errors, they pack a punch. They won this game.
That's right.
Because Josh Allen was running like Derrick Henry at times.
That's right.
And their defense held what's now the second most prolific offense in the league this year to just 14 points. All right?
That's right.
And while they came to fight, the artsy, fleet-footed, finesse, cute Miami Dolphins came to dance. They came.
So, first of all, I don't know what music they're going to play, and so I'm going to have to skip through this because I don't want this video to get, taken down. So, I don't watch these videos ahead of time, so I have no idea. So, you'll have to watch the breakdancing. Here, I'll just mute it. We could see what they're about to do. Okay. because I don't know what song this is going to be, and if it's like a real song, then I can't play it. This show gets ridiculous. I don't even know what to say, but you can trust that he's not saying anything too of substance just yet. But I mean, and this is what the Dolphins show. When games get close, when you get to the end of the season, you need that physicality. You need those bullies. You need the Josh Allen to be able to just put his head down and say, get me yards, and that's what Josh Allen was able to do. And that's what the Dolphins don't have. That guy is technically Tyreek Hill. And what makes Tyreek Hill special is that he's just so fast. And so, if you can't get him the ball in space, then he can only do so much. Or unless you can, really get him the ball when he just outruns everyone, it's just a little bit more limited. So, I mean, theoretically speaking, what would be more powerful? We know that the throwing the ball, right, is technically better than running the ball, and that's why throwing the ball has become so much more popular. And it's like teams that throw like more than 60% win majority of the games. I forget, there's like these new stats that have been coming out now for this past season. But theoretically speaking, let's just say you have a running back that got you guaranteed, 6 yards, 5 yards every single time he touched the ball. You'd win every single game because you can't stop it, and it travels well no matter what. All you do is have to hand the ball off, and then you can just barrel through. To have a huge, throwing game, which is obviously, like, I'm not stupid, it's obviously incredibly important. It's still more. You need to design. That guy needs to get open. He needs to catch it. It needs to be in a certain part of the field. There's so much more. It needs to be a good throw. There's so much more magic that needs to happen, and that's why back in the, old days, 80s, 90s, or whatever, like the run game was so much more just like power through, and you see them wearing the gigantic pads. Like, it was just a different game because in a lot of ways, it was just a simpler game, right? It was so much more of just like this bully ball. And so we've gone to now the opposite end of the spectrum of just like all these amazing plays and throws and speed and this and that's obviously really fun and exciting to watch. And watching someone like a Patrick Mahomes like scramble for like 5 minutes and then toss it up, and like that's exciting, that's great, that leads to championships, obviously. But with that said, sometimes you have these gotta have it downs, and that's why tight ends as of late within the last few years had become so important, because not only are they essentially like kind of glorified wide receivers at a lot of times, but they're just so big and powerful. They're bigger and powerful. They're a hybrid in a lot of ways, but between a running back and a wide receiver, because they can catch, they can block, they can put their head down and just barrel through people, and all that really matters. So if your game is really predicated on just making these amazing catches and being real fast and this and that, don't get me wrong, you can obviously go a long way. You can even win with that. But when games get tight, when the weather gets worse, when you're on the road, when the crowd is screaming, and when everyone likes to think that they can rise to the occasion and not get the moment get to them. That's just not always true. And so when you do have a guy that you can just put your head down and barrel through, whether it's like a Josh Allen or a quick 2-yard pass, and that now can just, you can get another 5-6 yards after contact and stuff, that really, really, really matters. And when you think about it, a lot of these teams that end up winning always have that type of guy that can just really get you what needs to be done. Those gotta have it yards. It's the same thing in basketball, right? You have those guys that always win, or win more than the others, because they have the teams have that get a bucket guy, or an elite player is get a bucket guy, right? Kevin Durant is a get a bucket guy. Steph Curry, get a bucket guy. LeBron James is a get a bucket guy. So that's what you have. And that's why, speaking of basketball, the smaller players outside of a Steph Curry, it's harder because it's not a guaranteed get a bucket guy, because it's more physical, it's smaller, and in the playoffs, the whistles get tighter, and so that's what happens. And so it's the same thing in football, and so at the end of the day, Tua, in any of these plays, he can't just put his head down and just say, okay, I'm getting these next 3-4 yards myself. Or it's like, unless we can get it to a Tyreek Hill, who else are we getting it to it in this moment? So I think that's what really kind of showed the limitations of Miami. So hopefully this music is over now.
Good job.
This
Monster Wild. I'm just letting you know right now.
It was the perfect analogy.
Okay.
I said it in week 4.
Yeah.
They are now 1-5 against playoff teams. They average like 17 points a game against
the
playoff.
analysis,
They're great. They're dancing with everybody else.
The analysis is spot on. The need to bring in break dancers is unnecessary. Listen, the Bills did everything to try to give Miami that game. Yes. Agreed? Yes. Especially early on.
Yes.
And Miami couldn't take advantage. So I want to talk about, to me, the 3 biggest culprits.
Please.
All right? The first one, and we all like him, and he's funny, and he's unique, and I think he's pretty cutting edge. And I'm now going to sound like an old man. Mike McDaniel, run the damn ball.
Oh!
They had success running.
Man, Genie's back.
They had success running the ball throughout.
Did I hate to say it, Nick Wright agreed with me. I didn't agree with Nick Wright. Nick Wright agreed with me. There is a difference. I don't know how I feel about that, but didn't I just go on a whole long rant about having to be more physical, run the ball, and those types of things? And, it's true.
In this game, they're a great running team. I understand you had no Mostert, but Achane was excellent. Jeff Wilson was well.
Fine, yeah.
And so I thought McDaniel because at no point were they down 2 scores. They were ahead most of the game. They relied on Tua, who didn't have it. Second culprit, a guy who maybe squandered Offensive Player of the Year, we'll see, in Tyreek Hill.
Thank you.
So Tyreek is one of the greatest players I've ever seen, and this, I thought, was a miss on an otherwise excellent broadcast. And I love Collinsworth. I really do. I don't love him as much as he loves Josh Allen, but I love Collinsworth.
No one does.
With a minute 25 left on the play that Tyreek Hill was pass interfered on, I understand Tyreek Hill, I believe, is going to score a touchdown here. I have seen him.
Yeah, I saw that.
Part of what makes him so dangerous is he gets from landing to full speed faster than any athlete I've ever seen. That safety is not getting there, and Seven's not catching him.
He might.
And so,
even if he doesn't score, it's still a huge play.
Right. And so
but that catch, I understand it was pass interference, but he knows that he should have caught that. Like, he did not catch that because of the pass interference. If that much is enough to disrupt him to not catch the ball, then he wouldn't be Tyreek Hill, because he got tangled up, but then he was able to see the ball, get both hands up there. I'm not going to act like it was technically the easiest catch because he did have, but let's not pretend we're playing physical football here. So that was more on Tyreek Hill dropping the ball than the pass interference leading him to dropping the ball. That's at least the way I viewed it. If you viewed it the other way, please definitely let me know in the comments below.
He got the flag, we all kind of moved on from the fact that this could have tied the game, or certainly put him in a better position. And then last but of course not least is Tua. And this is the part nobody wants to hear. This is why I thought him being in the MVP discussion at any point was ludicrous. This is why his own team multiple times throughout his career has tried to move off him. This is why they are not going to pay him this offseason, because now we've never seen him in the playoffs. We will in 0-degree weather shortly, and I'm excited for it. But he has had 4 playoff adjacent games in his career. We can show you how he did. Week 17 against Buffalo, his rookie season. He's a rookie, so be it. Win and you're in. Right. No. Week 17 the next year against Tennessee, they needed to win that game and the next week.
Again, though, that's all. Those first 2 years makes no sense because that was not with the current coach. It was with the defensive coach. They wanted to get rid of him. They had no idea what they were doing with Tua. They didn't know how to utilize Tua. So it's not even really fair, to say that. Because then you can even look at his passer rating. It's significantly higher with McDaniel. So there you go. In terms of these games. But I just don't think that that's, completely fair. Also in 2021, wasn't Tennessee the number 1 seed, I believe, if memory serves me correctly? They hung 34 points. Again, I'm not going to go back in that much time, but I don't think that's a fair analysis of Tua, at least yet. I think Tua is a decent quarterback. Again, I do not think Tua is on par with Josh Allen, Mahomes, Burrow. but most quarterbacks aren't, so that's like an unfair comparison. It's just like everyone always says like, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes did this or so-and-so did this. And it's like, well, yeah, that's, or Tom Brady did it. It's like, well, what are we talking about here? We can't compare everyone to like the top, 2% of all time. So do I think that Tua is going to go down in books as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL? No. But I think he's better than he gets credit for. But I do think he has limitations. I mean, he obviously has limitations. The fact is that he's also just a smaller, less physically imposing quarterback. And I think that matters. I think we're going to see, we love these mobile quarterbacks. But again, there's a difference between like running quarterbacks and mobile quarterbacks. I think what we like to see is like a Patrick Mahomes who has escapability, can get out of the pocket, and can run a little bit, but it doesn't have to run like a Lamar Jackson or even a Josh Allen for that matter. And so you want quarterbacks that can kind of take hits, that can kind of do those things. And Tua has changed his game, and understandably so, to not do that. And again, it makes sense for Tua, but it now just adds an extra limitation onto Tua. And it's not to say that Tua is only this like, old school Tom Brady just like sitting in the pocket all day, but it's just different. And again, Tua has admitted that he can't, since he's smaller, that he can't see, certain plays develop, that he can't see over some of the linemen, and like that's his words, like literally his words. He said that like last year or 2 years ago. And so like, that matters. But I think with the right tools around Tua, you can win, but I just don't think Tua is the guy that you can, at least not yet, that you can just look at him and say, we need you to win us this game. And that's what the Bills were able to do with Josh Allen. They're able to say, win us this game. And he did. He put his head down and did. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. I know he's not having a great year this year, but that's what Jalen Hurts did in the Super Bowl. And I know they didn't end up winning, but Jalen Hurts put the Eagles on his back and made magic happen. And most people say, unless you're an Eagles hater or just a Patrick Mahomes fanboy, that Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, he was able to just bear down and get it done. I don't see that in Tua, at least not yet. And I think that is a limitation. So you kind of have to ask yourself, if you're a Dolphins fan or if you're Dolphins management, like, what do you do with that, though? What do you do with these more in-between quarterbacks? I think that's the most confusing thing. It's very clear when you obviously have a quarterback that's just not good enough. And you say, okay, we need to get a better quarterback. And obviously when you have a great quarterback, you're like, all right, we just got to build a team around him. Like, let's go. Let's do this. But then there's like the Baker Mayfields of the world, or gosh, I can't even think of a quarterback right now, honestly, because it seems like everything's so binary right now. It's either like an amazing quarterback or you're just complete trash. And I feel, Geno Smith, and it's like these quarterbacks. And again, I'm not saying that, Tua is on that level. I think Tua is probably better than those quarterbacks, but it's just like, what do you do? And that's where the Cowboys have been stuck in with Dak Prescott. And he has moments where he's great, but Dak has never really said, get on my back, like, let's go. Dak has not led the Cowboys to the NFC Championship or to a Super Bowl in like, how long has he been playing now? Like nearly a decade. It's like 7 years or something. So that matters. Or probably maybe longer than that, right? I think he entered the league in 2016. I forget exactly. But, so that's what I'm trying to say. So it's hard to analyze these situations when you're like, okay, you're good, but you're not like elite. And it's like, what do we do here? So the best case scenario, I think, for the Dolphins and the way you win with that, and this is why the Cowboys have been kind of stuck, is because they paid Dak like he's, Patrick Mahomes top dollar. And that has hurt the Cowboys. They haven't been able to hold on to all of their weapons and pay everyone that needs to be paid. The Dolphins may be able to be in a situation where they don't have to now go pay Tua max money. So now they'll be able to stack the roster around him, potentially build like a 49ers roster and have a Brock Purdy. Because I think if you have Tua with the 49ers and with Kyle Shanahan, which is, kind of similar, obviously, to McDaniel, like, that's a great, I think Tua absolutely wins. I think Tua is just as successful, if not more successful, than Brock Purdy. I think it's definitely like an interesting thought experiment. So that's just the way I view it.
Week, terrible. Last week against Baltimore to be the 1 seed, bad. Last night against Buffalo to win the division and be the 2 seed, bad and throws to Chase Claypool, of all people, in double coverage with the game on the line. So that is, as much as Brew's, if not funny, accurate commentary about the breakdancing, is an issue, they also they don't have a difference maker at quarterback, flatly. And much like another team in the Shanahan system, in my opinion,
oh God, what is wrong with me? Nick Wright just agreed with me again. They don't have a difference maker at quarterback. Gosh, don't worry. I'm gonna be posting another clip where I'm gonna be disagreeing with Nick Wright every step of the way. So we'll get back soon.
I don't have to argue about it right now. Can look so amazing when things are rolling. But if things are not, and the other team can get you a little off schedule, not having that difference maker at quarterback is the difference in these games.
And here's a quick difference. Because we've I don't know if you agree.
Purdy's a better athlete.
Right, I think the eye test with Purdy looks better than Tua.
I actually agree.
And here's the other thing. I talked about it last week. Purdy's done it for the most part against good teams. Tua struggles against the good teams. That's the thing. Like, he racked up most of his big numbers, as with Tyreek, against the bottom feeders, the tomato cans.
No, they've beaten one team over 500. Just the Cowboys. Yeah. That's it. All right, so the Dolphins are headed to Arrowhead Saturday night, where they...
So, I mean, I'll make another video about that, doing that. There's no point in adding that to this one. But, yeah, I mean, that is a conversation that you're going to have right now with the Dolphins is Tua's not a difference maker, so what do you do with him? How can you win with Tua, or do you move off of Tua? And, it's not as easy as a conversation as one might think, and Tua is also someone that you want to root for and you want to see succeed, so it's not as easy to, just be like, nah, we're moving on. So definitely interesting. If you're a Dolphins fan, would love to hear your thoughts below. Let me know. Do you want to keep Tua? Do you want to get rid of Tua? And if you're not a Dolphins fan, also obviously let me know. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.